Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another thrilling chapter of Zooster by Night. This evening, we are going to spy in on the remaining members of the Fireflies after many tumultuous events have preceded it. So we're starting this scene in the morgue with Seth overseeing Winston's torporous form. Seth had arrived at the morgue after his visit with Chris Shremy, barely enough time to greet Simon before Bishop Middlewaithe had to rush off to a meeting with the other bishops and the cardinal, leaving Seth with the instructions to watch over Winston, and if Simon never returned, to ensure that Alice Bratos provided them with some protection. So as Legate Seth is watching over Winston, then he is cutting off the pesky bandages that Kashrimi had his assistants place over his wounds. He does not care to hide them. And as doing so, he feels yet another Valdery break. However, this one, there's definitely mixed feelings, as it was a strong Valdery, but unlike the other strong Valderys he has lost, Seth doesn't really feel any sadness over this one, and feels a little bit more confident that Simon is going to return. And eventually,
Simon is on his way home from the meeting, getting into the neighborhood where he was at. He is going to stop and look about for for a hobo or two. I'm going to make a perception streetwise roll here. And with a 9 and an 8, he will find, I would think, he would find a hobo who he will then spend a blood and demontate. And he will do so quite long enough to make this guy curl up into a ball. And he will drag him into the car and feed from him just enough to knock him out and keep some blood in the body. He will take the incapacitated individual back to the morgue, and when Legate Seth sees Simon, he is literally dragging a half-unconscious, raggedy-looking man behind him, like a sack of potatoes, by one leg. Seth? Oh, Simon is still wearing the Plague Monk outfit, which he left without wearing the Plague Monk outfit, but now he's wearing the hat and the mask and the gloves. Seth will also notice a huge unhealed gash across Simon's chest.
Your Excellency.
I assume I don't have to tell you what just happened?
I definitely felt it.
Simon nods, drags the body over. Before we continue, I'm going to try to wake up Winston. Your job is, when he wakes up, he's going to be quite hungry. Shove that, pointing to the human, in front of him so he doesn't eat you. Fair enough?
Yes.
Simon ties Winston's leg down on one of his lab tables. By now, Seth has seen Simon's lab. It is somewhere between a mad scientist's lair, some Mise's lab, and a jail, as there are many chains and leather straps available. Simon has chained Winston to the bed, but has not restricted any of his other limbs. And Simon will rip open one of his hands with a knife, and he will shove it onto Winston's mouth and shove we'll say 3 blood points into his mouth, waking Mr. Winston up as he licks his wound.
So, I guess Winston is awake now, right?
Yeah, you will come awake. You'll have 3 vitae in you because Simon is giving you 3 vitae. And that you're going to be really fucking hungry.
Yeah. Winston opens his eyes, and he, before he thinks anything else, he feels that he must feed now. He's like, hungry. I'm so hungry.
What's
Simon
your
will step back.
Self-control roll, bud?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. My self-control is 3, as far as I recall.
Okay. And you've got 1 success. So yeah, you are able to sputter words and maintain some collectiveness. And Seth will shove the mortal towards you to feast on.
And I am not making any attempt to restrain myself here. I feed as much as I can.
Simon leans over to Seth as Winston tears at this guy's throat and drains him dry. And he says, notice at the exact moment when the light goes out. Watch. Wait for it. There. Notice how they go limp. How the eyes glazed over just an instant before death comes. Almost as if an understanding comes to them and they simply let go.
Winston, however, is too busy eating to notice anything else. So he, by the time he finishes draining him, how much blood did the poor guy have left in him, by the way?
Simon knocked him out, so I'm going to guess like maybe he had 5 left in him.
Okay, so Winston is now at 8 blood points, if someone could notice that. And he had blood running from his mouth, and he looked over at Simon and Seth and says, Something's wrong. I can feel it. Where is Alistair? Where is Evelyn? He says, and then before anyone can answer him, no, don't answer that. I can feel it. Damn it!
Simon's going to raise an eyebrow and watch quietly as he's taking off the mask and hat at this point.
Seth will watch Winston work his way through this as well.
And Winston will take a more before noticing. But Bratos as well. I believe that he is aware of his lack of vinculum to those 3 persons, right?
Yeah. Well, you didn't actually feel them go down, but you can feel in your heart that your feelings towards them have changed at least.
Yeah, exactly. So and he remembers that feeling from KK. So he knows what's like the basics of what's happened, and then he says,
"What's the last thing you remember, Winston? I will assume it was police."
I was on the ground, and I heard a loud roar of some kind. And then he pauses. It was a car. I heard a car.
I ran over you.
Winston gives Simon a little smile and says, "I would like to know the logic behind that." He's not aggressive, but he's bemused.
Simon looks to him deadpan and says, "I killed 2 of the cops in the process and drove the other one insane. I got you out of there. I didn't leave you."
Good. That's all I needed to hear.
Now, I will appraise you on the Brado situation after Seth has appraised us on the Eveline and Alistair situation. I was chastised for not going with you. I wish you had invited me. Out of character, I know time zones, but Simon has to say something. Yeah.
Well, previously when we've gotten indication on where they were, by the time we were able to organize, they had moved on. Whether they were tipped off, I do not know the details of. However, I had set up for individuals that were ready to go on the fly, and they were actually responded quite quickly. They got there before I did.
But they were clearly not enough.
Yes, potentially. Um, in some
So,
frame of reference, really, at the night of the police raid was when Eveline and Alistair died. It just took a week for their bodies to realize it.
Simon nods. I expected as much, so please fill me in. Hunters, Gene, frenzying.
The the hunters are very well equipped, and I'm not referring to being well funded. They are,
Simon nods. Yes, I believe Winston felt the strength of their faith.
Yeah.
well, and not, well, in deference to Winston, sometimes just the imagery of faith can elicit that response from him. They had taken over a rundown club, and it radiated with a holiness that I have never seen before. It didn't burn to step into it, but it actively interfered with the process of vitae.
Simon raises an eyebrow.
We encountered some common hunters, probably to be honest, what I was expecting to be dealing with. But the two individuals that were watching over the staked forms of Alistair and Eveline had much more potent mystical channels. One of them managed to hold his own against the three bastards, while the other one was having some difficulty dealing with me directly. His true potency was in his ability to resist what I was assailing him with. Eventually, because the one set fire to himself and Eveline and Alistair, they were consumed by the fires. He was put down. The one I was confronting was what dropped me, and he attempted to flee before Bitta chased him down and finished him off.
Simon raises a hand. You say one of them lit themselves on fire and burned himself with the other two?
Yes, he had soaked himself, Eveline, and Alistair with gasoline, and when we entered the room, he flipped open his Zippo and said that he was going to destroy us all with holy fire.
Right.
And the other one was standing in the corner with campfire smoke billowing out of his mouth.
Winston raises an eyebrow at that and
Yes,
says,
Simon's
"What?"
raising two eyebrows. What?
Yeah. So while the bastards leapt to deal with the one on fire and to try to rescue our comrades out of the flames, I wanted to ensure that the smoky one didn't get away. It turned out that he was merely a child, barely a teenager, and was filled with such religious conviction and devotion that he had supernatural potency to him. He actually destroyed a crossbow by clubbing me with it.
Sounds much like the baseball bat that you got hit with, Winston.
Yeah, it would appear much the same, yeah.
And their level of zealotry was so intense that my attempt to try to distract him or slow him down by engaging in religious debate totally went over him. It was like trying to trying to tell Jenny McCarthy to vaccinate her kids. It's like no reason, no conversation. He was focused on what his goal was and was not going to give up at all.
So he was an avid Christian, you would say, eh?
He was those kind of Christians that would make other Christians creeped out.
Right. So, the 4 who went in all got away, but you were unable to finish the mission.
Well, as I said, their deaths were presaged by the time that we were raided. I don't know if I would consider it a failure because we did learn a lot from...
Yes. Simon shaking his head no. No. We were raided by police sent by Murdoch Bratos. At some point, one of them turned 2 of our members over to these hunters. We need to find that connection and end it.
Exactly. Winston says with a rage in his eyes that's not usually seen in him.
There's
Let me build on you. Oh, yes.
There's also some other interesting coincidences. As all of us crossed the river to that section of the city, we could feel like we were passing through some sort of barrier, whether it's a detection screen or what have you. They have set something up.
As you get closer to the airport.
Yes. As well as I said, the holy building was interfering with the expenditure of vitae, except for 2 of us. Those of us infected with the curse were not affected by the building.
Simon raises an eyebrow. So this blood disease seems to be a holy blessing, as it were?
Yes, that is my understanding from my experiences, that it's coming from the same source as whatever was empowering that building.
Simon nods. And what do you think this has to do with our vision of the soldiers on the hill?
That I am still trying to work out. There's a chance... Well, I don't know as much about Nodist lore as you. What does it say about the time of thin blood? I remember hearing that phrase.
Simon shakes his head. All I know is that the time of thin blood will spell the end of the world. If you want a Nodist scholar, you'll have to go to Kashrimi. I am a historian and a Sabbat scholar, but I am not a Nodist.
All right. Because this infection is thinning the blood, and I'm disconcerted at the concept that the soldiers on the hill is all of us.
Actually, since Winston has been using quite a bit of time to study, would he have any kind of idea about this?
You'd have to ask the STs. I wouldn't know.
Okay.
Do you have Nodist lore?
Yeah, you have to have
specialization.
Specifically have to have Nodist lore.
I don't think he has the canine. He has Sabbat lore and vampire lore.
No, that's not Nodist lore. It's
no.
You have to have a specific lore to know the Book of Nod.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simon says, let me build on your story a bit.
Okay.
I was called to a meeting, as you know. The other bishops were there, as well as the cardinal and the paladins. We were reporting. Bishop Kashrimi was going on about what you just described to me that you had described to him. I was accused of not doing enough to save the Fireflies by the cardinal. I believe he was goading me into some sort of action. So action I took. I reached into Brados' mind and ripped the information out of him. He was responsible for the attack on the mailbox. He was attempting to teach you a lesson that you need to chill the fuck out and respect humans. He was trying to teach me a lesson that I can't just go around killing humans. Needless to say, I didn't agree with Bishop Brados. I can do whatever the fuck I fucking well please. Simon looks agitated, then he calms down. Now then, the Fireflies did not need a lesson from him because you were my responsibility, and I was quite happy to teach you in the way that I felt that you could learn. Bishop Brados decided that that wasn't enough, and he was going to teach you another lesson, and he managed to get 2 of you killed in the process.
Winston's getting one more.
The Cardinal could not excuse this. He reprimanded both me and Kashrimi for not doing our jobs well enough, but also mentioned that we would retain our bishoprics because Kashrimi is learning and I am tenacious, he said. And he knows that, since I've been reporting to him, that I have been doing all that I could to get the Fireflies back together. And Winston knows exactly how far we were willing to go to do that.
Yes.
We took on a hunter, and we captured one alive, Simon says, looking at Seth. I'll come back to that in a moment. Once I ripped open that weakling, that traitor's brain,
You're glitching.
he attempted to reason his way out of it with, I was doing the sect a service by teaching the Fireflies. I had no idea that hunters were involved. The Cardinal was not moved. The Cardinal monomacied him, being a creature of tradition. Rather than just chop off his head then and there, he challenged him to a monomacy so he could defend himself. I do believe that the Cardinal is honorable that way. The monomacy ensued with Kashrimi officiating. The Cardinal beheaded Bishop Brados. He is no more. Now,
I can't hear a word you're saying, Matthew.
Okay, I got a clear mark, so it's probably on your end.
Simon just said that the Cardinal monomacied Brados and chopped off his head. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So Simon says, now that he is no longer part of the equation, the situation now falls to what to do with the 40K, who only has 1 or 2 members. Oh, okay. Mark says give him a couple minutes.
Okay.
So, dear watchers, we are going to pause this scene while erstwhile Mark comes back. How you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing fine. There he goes. Mark's back.
You back? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? La 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 la. Wanting to talk to Mark now.
He just muted himself, so.
Okay, well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to continue.
Yeah.
All right, so Simon says, now that he is no longer an issue, there's the question of what to do with the 40K, who only has 2 members, and the Fireflies, which only have 2 members. So, as I see it, you have a couple of options. One, as a bishop, I will help mentor you if you want to meld with the other 2 40K. The Fireflies and 40K will be no more. They will be a new pack with a new name. If you think that is advisable. I don't know the other two members of the 40K. Who are they? What are they, Raven and Ditta, or who is it? No, they're King's Bastards. Who's left of the 40K at this point?
Joseph Kruger and Cody the Heartbreaker.
Right. Good old Kruger, who is super friends with us. Simon looks as if he's trying to be sarcastic. Joseph Kruger is Valderade too.
I am very amicable with Kruger, actually. But
well, that's great, except the fact that Kruger is also, and I say this with the deepest love in my heart, a duplicitous bastard who is a survivalist above all. He's an Nosferatu. It comes with the territory. Never think that he will put himself before you, or that he will sacrifice himself for you, because he won't. That's just not in his nature.
Alice has been very open about that.
Alice hates his guts. He hates my guts. I really don't care that much about him one way or the other. He tried to infiltrate our pack. That was very foolish of him because I found him out in less than a minute. Now then, your option there is to go be part of the 40K, meld together. Kruger will probably take over and relegate you and Winston to a lesser role. So your other option would be to recruit somebody and make yourself a pack of 3. Also feasible. Your other option, of course, is to attempt to join Cerberus, which would be what I would prefer. I mean, Simon looks around. Since you're already here, all you would have to do is prove to Alice that you have something to give the pack, and it'd be really up to her. But my word will go far with Alice. Bill, I believe you already know, and you already like. So, I am not going to tell you where to go and what to do, but you and Winston need to go somewhere and do something quickly. You can't be packless.
No, that's for sure. Well, I think...
But Simon says, but I think I've proven that I'm willing to go to bat for both of you, as I'm taking responsibility for your failed rescue mission, and I did everything in my power to keep your pack together.
Winston nods. No one can doubt that, Your Grace.
So my advice would be try with Cerberus first. If that doesn't work, then absorb the 40K, but don't let them absorb you.
Winston
But I leave it
slowly and says, "I thank you for your offer, Your Grace. I am not completely opposed to accepting it, but I would like to have some time to think about it."
Simon looks at him and he says, the Cardinal isn't going to give you a lot of time. A night or two is one thing, but if by this time next week you haven't found a pack, I'm going to be forced to put you somewhere, and I don't want to do that. So, I
will
suggest,
not Your Grace.
one thing I do suggest is that you two stick together.
Yes.
Now, you two have taught me something that I did not expect to learn. That not all of our blood are worthless. So, it is my humble suggestion, as your brother in more ways than one, that we keep the Malkavians of the city together. Because you two and I both know that no one in the city really respects us.
Yes.
I suppose that depends on who we deal with, but I would say that yes, as a whole, I doubt the city takes anything we say very seriously.
And Simon leans in and says, however, I have orchestrated the death of an archbishop and a bishop. They should take us seriously.
Yep.
And if you stick with me, gentlemen, I will ensure that you have that ability as well. No one polices this sect better than the Malkavians.
Winston nods.
And Winston, as a bishop, I have to say I have to say hail to you. When the chips were down, you put your balls in the fire. Legate Seth, you may not know this, but Winston went toe-to-toe with a hunter while I snuck up on her. I mean, he literally went toe-to-toe with her. He took some terrible blows, but he distracted her long enough for me to put a bullet through her lungs. And he lived to tell the tale.
Thank you, Eminence.
So,
All for the
as a bishop, Simon pats you on the shoulder. You have my gratitude and my blessing, whatever that means.
Winston nods in gratitude and says, "Thank you, Your Grace."
Good job, Winston. I knew there was a reason that I was guided to select you and your brother, and obviously the best option of the two of you was the one that survived the experience.
He has always been weaker than I.
Well,
And Simon, Simon missed that last thing because my wife called.
I just complimented Winston and said that I knew there was a reason I was led to embrace he and his brother, and obviously the right one survived.
And then I said I always knew that he was always weaker.
Simon says, "Oh, and just so you know, Winston, I also mentioned your service to the Cardinal."
Oh, thank you. What did he say?
Nothing.
Well,
I don't think
thank
he
you.
even cared.
That in itself is a compliment.
It is.
So, I think it does go noticed that in every attempt to get the Fireflies back, the Malkavians have been there.
Yes.
So, again, I say, we should stick together, if at all possible.
Winston has the 1,000-mile stare that he always has when he really considers something deeply, and then he nods in an agreeing, like in a body language that says he agrees.
A diplomat, a scholar, and whatever the fuck I am. I'm sure it makes a good team somewhere. Now then, all that aside, the hunters are going to continue to be a problem. They're not going to, I'm sure that you bloodied their nose, but they're not going to let this slide. They're going to come at us. The Cardinal wants us ready. So we need to stay on this. And of course, we do have the blood disease to deal with. Seth, your findings on the disease, I would take them to Kashrimi, share them with him, your ideas that it is some sort of holy blessing, as it were. And if you feel it is prudent and wise, take it to the Cardinal as well. Winston.
Your Grace?
I need you to put everything you can into finding this connection between the police and the hunters.
Yes,
and,
Your
I'm sure Seth can help you on that as well.
I shall.
I'm going to try to maintain the ghoul that Alistair and I set up. He's already one step bonded towards me. It shouldn't be difficult to maintain him under my control.
Can we get to the connection from him?
Which will give us some assistance with funds and other contacts.
Ah, yes. Yes. Winston's mind is racing at the moment towards how on earth he's going to get inside the police.
Now, it goes without saying, you do not have my permission to die. And Simon looks hard at both of you. And make no mistake that I will grow in knowledge, and if you die without my permission, I won't let you die. Not really. You two are far too valuable to me and to the sect at this time. So get shit done. And that's all I have to say on the matter. Simon looks down at the corpse. He looks over at Winston. Truss that up on that crucifix over there. Prepare it. I'm going to study it later.
And Winston looks and nods. Okay, sure. And he picks up the corpse of the exsanguinated hobo and carries it over to.
And what's your willpower, Winston?
My willpower is 8.
Okay. Jesus.
You need to roll it.
And yeah, I'm rolling it for you since you're approaching a crucifix. What's the difficulty?
Oh yeah, of course, lol.
That's exactly why Simon did it.
Mark, what's the difficulty?
I will look that up real quick.
Okay. Well, you got a 9 and an 8, so I'm assuming that's 2 successes.
Yeah.
So you're able to brave yourself to it.
Yeah.
Okay. As you are going over there and trussing this guy up on what is literally a metal crucifix with handcuffs on it, Simon's going to lean over to Seth.
9, Seth. Was there a 9 in there?
Yes, there was.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Simon leans over to Seth and he says, "What's with him and crosses?"
I'm not sure, because he didn't strike me as being very religious prior. I don't know whether it's because I had him trussed up as a crucifix when I buried him, or other factors in our embrace, but he just seems to really be riled up by it. I tried taking him to a church once on an outing, and he fled in a frenzy.
Simon leans in, so he's literally touching Seth's ear, and he whispers in Seth's ear, "And you have a choice. Either tell me your affliction, or have me find out." Simon makes a little kissy noise, and leans back over. Well, gentlemen, if there's nothing else, then I believe we all have work to do. Stay safe. Try not to be followed to this location. And you both need to talk to Alice as soon as possible about your future.
Yes.
We will take your words into consideration, Your Grace.
Of course. Simon looks strangely active. He's not being blasé like normal. Some of you might have dealt with people who are manic. Simon is expressing a lot of the symptoms of being manic. He looks very busy as he begins to work on the person that is trussed up. He turns around and he says, "Unless you two are willing to help me study this body, I suggest you leave."
I shall take my leave anyway.
Winston nods politely in saying farewell, and then he walks away from the crucifix somewhat faster than he usually walks.
Make a perception alertness, both of you.
Okay.
Perception alertness.
How many dice do you have?
Perception 3, alertness 3, so that's 6.
Okay. And you get 1 success if it was standard difficulty.
Yeah, it's not going to be anything weird.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think everything Simon does is weird.
I got 1 success as well.
Okay, as you're leaving, you hear Simon say to the corpse, "Look at me." And the corpse lifts its head and opens its eyes.
Winston, he looks and then he pretends he didn't see it and exits the room.
Okay, well, Simon's done with the scene, so it's up to you.
Yeah.
And Winston, I do have some other appointments I have to attend to, but think about the options that we have.
Yes.
All the options that we have. My feedback is that I do agree with Simon on many of the points that he has made, but I think no matter what packs we end up with, the three of us Malkavians will always, in one way or the other, be together and have each other's backs.
Definitely.
So we have to make the decisions that is right for ours ourselves.
If I may ask, what are your immediate plans?
My immediate plans is the Duchess of the Bastards and I have an appointment with the Cardinal, and I believe I also have more of a conversation required with Bishop Kishrimi.
Yes, okay.
Aside from,
I should have been more specific. I'm sorry about that. I meant, what are your immediate thoughts about our pack situation? Do you tend toward towards Cerberus as well, or?
I think I'm going to try to meet again with Mr. Kruger in the next night or so before I make a decision. I'm curious to see what his thoughts are on the options for his pack now that his Ductus has died in disgrace.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I will speak to you later, Seth.
Very
And
well.
he
Cain
take
be with you.
and also with you. And Winston
And
leave.
dear viewer, may Cain be with you as well.